Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's fantastic Marketing Profs webinar filled with tons of fun and shenanigans. I'm George B. Thomas, speaker, trainer, catalyst, and I'll be your moderator for today's educational event. Attendees, thanks for being here and learning with us. We really do appreciate you and the time that you're spending here with us today. Now, before we get started, we have a few housekeeping items to go over, so here we go. If you lose audio or visual, simply exit Zoom and come back to reset your connection. The chat feature is available to you at the bottom of your screen and should only be used for general comments because you can ask questions or send comments using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen as you think of them. We'll hear from our speakers, Carol and Jennifer, and then we'll go into our Q&A session where we'll answer as many questions as we can with the time remaining. Now, I'd like to take a minute to thank Act-On for sponsoring today's broadcast. Act-On software provides solutions that empower marketers to engage targets at every step of the customer lifecycle, allowing marketers to build smart and effective programs to grow their business and generate high customer lifetime value. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Carol Atkinson and Jennifer Blanco. Carol is the Director of Marketing Operations at Act-On Software with a passion for process, systems, and analytics. Carol focuses her expertise on helping marketing teams increase efficiency in lead processes and pipeline creation through data-driven insights. Jennifer is Senior Customer Marketing Manager at Act-On. She's dedicated to customer advocate who turned her passion in for the customer journey into a career. Jennifer also sits on the University of Oregon Portland Chapter Alumni Board, where she organizes networking activities for recent alumni. All right, attendees. As you can tell, it's going to be a fun one. You're here for how marketing teams can tap into their superpowers. Carol and Jennifer, are you both ready to take flight?
Ready.
Absolutely. Let's do this.
Take it away.
All right. Well, thanks so much, George. Here's what we're going to cover today. As you can see, we're suited up. We're taking this seriously, and we're going to help you all figure out consolidating your tech stack, what is needed in that utility build to help you save the day. Once you suit up, then you need to find your sidekick. Hello, Carol. But really, that's what we're going to look at marketing automation for. You know, what can you do with marketing automation on your side? And then finally, we're going to get into engaging in a laser-focused approach, how you can take that to target your customers, target your prospects for better overall conversion. So with that, Carol, I'll send it over to you.
Sounds good. Thanks. So the first thing to do when you're called to action is suit up with your marketing tech stack. So to get started, let's begin with a poll question and think about your marketing tech stack. And we're ready to ask this question. Just so think about it, and what software has the biggest impact on your marketing efforts today? So you've got my CRM, your marketing automation platform, your sales enablement tool or tools, or ABM. So let's give a few more seconds. Getting some good results in here. We're a little biased with this question. I think, Jennifer, if you had to answer this, I think I know how do you answer.
This is great, really good participation and really interesting results here.
Yeah, so all right, polls ended and we see marketing automation platform as the winner, biggest impact on marketing efforts with 47% of the vote. CRM, my CRM, close second with 41%, and then sales enablement tool with 9% and ABM with 3%. So great to know. As a marketing automation company, we would vote for a marketing automation platform. We'll talk a lot about that later, and how that can help you. But I think this poll question was great because what we're hoping to, just start this conversation with is that those are only 4 options, right, of a sliver of categories that make up the current martech landscape. Just look at this map, right? From martekmap.com, there's over 10,300 vendors in 2022. So it's just like the Marvel universe. It just keeps growing, right? And it's actually grown 6,521% since 2011. So as new vendors keep entering the market, you really have to pay attention to what's in your tech stack and know what's out there that you could be using to help grow your business and amplify your marketing efforts. Next slide, Jennifer. So why is this important? I think it's really, every marketing team should have a good pulse on the number of tools in your marketing tech stack. So as you can see from these stats, which were taken during a 2021 survey among B2B marketing professionals in the US, Canada, and UK, 44% said that they have between 5 and 10 tools in their marketing technology stack. 6% said their martech stack consisted of 21 or more tools. Here at Act On, we have 37. So we kind of blow these stats out of the water. And many of you maybe on this call are thinking, Ash, do you even know? Do you know how many you have? Could you take a guess? Anyone who wants to share in the chat, please do. I find this really interesting. And as a marketing ops person, it's, one of the major things I'm responsible for. And every company I've been at is different. But this keeps growing, obviously, with over 10,000 options to choose from. There's a lot you can utilize.
Yeah, we were talking too, Carol, about this is just the marketing team, right? And what we have in our tech stack. So it's actually even much more expansive when you start to think about all the other teams that you're interacting with on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next slide. So if you really want to be a superhero and have a martech stack that's efficient, and you want to save your marketing team money, I'm sure everyone gets asked or you're asked, hey, we need to save money. How can we do this? Or maybe you just want to make finance your new BFF. I've learned that that's sometimes a really nice, sidekick to have with you. Do a thorough audit of your martech stack. So this is something I did when I first started here at Act On. It's really important because, I think, especially if you had lots of turnover on your team, or you've just been in a place, maybe you've been at your company for a while and everything's just kind of been on auto renew, and you haven't really put much thought into what are we using, what are we not using. So when I went through this process, this audit, I discovered that we could really slim down our tech stack and get rid of several tools that weren't being utilized by our team. I think I canceled subscriptions for a dozen different tools, saving us close to $10,000 a year. That might be a lot to you. That might be a drop in the bucket, but every little dollar helps, especially as we're all being asked to do more with less these days. So I thought I'd highlight some of the questions that you should really be asking yourself and your team when you're going through an audit. So to start, one, is anyone using this tool? And if not, should we be? Is there even a resource who could own it? And if your answer is no across the board, get rid of it. And I think this is one of those it's not just like a do it once and you've gone through and done an audit and check, I never have to think about that again. This is something that's always ongoing. You might have a great list of everything you think that your team is using, but then someone leaves and couple months down the road, you get a surprise invoice for something that auto renewed or is going to renew that you didn't even know you had. So it's something, dedicate someone. If you don't have an ops person on your team, that's okay. Just dedicate someone to keep an eye on that. The second thing you can ask do you have duplicate tools in your tech stack that are doing the same thing? 2 video platforms or graphic design tools. There's so many, right? But think about if you have a duplicate tool, why do you have that? Do you need both? And ask the questions to the people who are using those tools. Like, hey, did you know we have this other one? And figure out, could you cut one? Which one would be better? Third, are there departments outside of your marketing team using the tool in addition to what you are using? And if so, could you share the budget? Could this go on their budget, right? Make a case. I think Jennifer's going to talk about this a little later, but it's, we're all fighting, right? For every dollar we have. And this is not uncommon. We've done this several times too at Acton and discovered, actually, the product team uses this more. Well, let's figure out a creative way to share that cost. Third or fourth, is there an integration that you could add to make it more sticky? So this is one of those, if you are analyzing and you say, well, we have this tool and it's really just being underutilized. How can we make it, stronger, better? Oftentimes, a lot of the software and tools, when you first subscribed to it, signed up for it, purchased it, it was doing one thing, and it's probably expanded to do something else, additional enhancements and features. So really dig in, contact your account manager or rep at that company and figure out, hey, we're underutilizing this. How can you help us use this better?
Yes.
They'd be happy to help and have that conversation with you.
You know what? We didn't talk about this when we were walking through it, but
Yeah.
it made me think about this. And this is an activity that I'm currently doing with one of our vendors. I asked them to resell me the tool like I don't know anything about it, because we've been using this tool for like 4 years, and there have been all kinds of rollouts, and there have been different people that have owned it, and I've owned it at past companies. And I'm just using kind of the bare minimum, but I know that they've released enhancements that I'm not taking advantage of. And so I actually have a meeting with them next week to have an entire walkthrough of the platform to like kind of start from scratch. And I would recommend doing that. I mean, I've actually recommended that we do that with some of our Acton customers even. But we probably are all really guilty of using just a small portion of what a lot of these tools can do. So to bring yourself up to speed for what it can do, and maybe it can solve some other problems for you, is a really good tip, Carol.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's a great example. And yeah, the last one I'd offer is just, are there other options, competitors out there offering this tool or service for less? Think about it. There's over 10,300 vendors in this tech stack space. So, and that's growing. So yes, the answer is yes. There probably are competitors, whether they, you really have to understand, are they apples to apples of what you're using? But if they are, leverage what they have, leverage their pricing to negotiate a better price for what you're paying for is another great tip. I mean, all of these things do take time and effort, but if you're really in that position where you need to pinch dollars, or you really want to invest in something else or spend money on a campaign and you just are coming up short, this is a great way to find some extra money. So next, Jennifer is going to cover how to really calculate that ROI for your tech stack.
Yeah, so this is a really good segue. Carol laid out a really good foundation for how you can go and audit your tech stack and make sure that you're actually using all of those tools. And then, hopefully you have somebody like Carol on your team, or you're holding yourself accountable to say, if not, they don't make the cut. Use that money to go and do something else that you're really going to get value out of. And the other thing is, we're all kind of really thin right now on budgets. Budgets are being looked at, different contracts are being challenged. So you're probably being asked to really showcase and prove, how is this beloved tool that you're using, how is it making an impact? Can you prove its ROI? And so these are sort of the things that I've actually been going through this. And these are the things that I've been thinking about. So, figuring out what is the pain or problem that you're trying to solve with this tool, right? And if you lost it, and if it was gone from your tech stack today, what kind of impact would that make, not only to you, but your entire team, and maybe even the company? And thinking through, what are those efficiencies? You can think to yourself, and maybe in some cases, you had access to this tool in a previous role or company, or maybe you remember what it was like before you had that. These are the kinds of things that you want to be thinking through. And just like Carol mentioned, there's most likely a cheaper solution out there. So yes, some people in finance maybe will say you can get this for half of the price, but you need to know what those differences are and what is it that's really driving the value for you with this tool, or really what are those shortcomings. And then you get into how do you calculate ROI. This is difficult, not going to lie. I think that that's a challenge that probably everybody on this webinar has faced. You want to figure out what is the time and cost savings and how do you measure that? What are the efficiencies that you've created? How much is it saving you in time and money? And then how is this impacting your business overall and the bottom line? And the way that I look at it in customer marketing is what kind of business am I influencing? So right now I'm going through this. We have a gifting platform that we use. We've used it for less than a year, and we're definitely looking at it and trying to figure out what kind of ROI are we getting out of this tool. Now, I am a team of one. So I guess I kind of am a marketing superhero. But I used to package up gifts to send to customers, and then I had to go to the UPS or FedEx store. Then I would have to submit an expense report for that. So that's the amount of time, that it would take me for each one of those gifts. Looking at the data, it's like, oh, I've realized that our vendor has really great pricing with a lot of these shipping companies. So all of the shipping costs are actually about half of what we would have to pay out of pocket if I'm still going to the UPS store once a week. And then you look at overall campaigns. I just ran an ABM campaign this week. It was a lot of fun. It was a Pie Day campaign. We sent pies. It has sweet and savory options depending on what kind of pie you like. We sent those out to customers that are renewing in Q2 and Q3. The AMs got on board, everybody loved it. And so far we've attributed the influence of about $1 million in ARR. So these are conversation starters, opening doors, that sort of thing. So really trying to measure the overall impact that program is having. I'm happy to report back to this team once I have a definitive answer, but that's the process that I'm going through right now to really try to prove that this program and this tool is providing value.
Yeah,
so
great example.
that's our suited up section. Then it's time to go and find your sidekick. So sidekick, Carol, I'll send it back over to you.
Awesome. All right. So finding your sidekick, how do you do more with automation at your side? Before I get into this and shift our conversation to this, I just wanted to share a stat I read actually from a Marketing Profs article earlier this week, and it really got me thinking about adoption of marketing automation. It was on average 56% of companies are currently using marketing automation, with 40% of B2B companies planning to adopt the technology. It was from Email Monday. And, just from our poll results, majority of you thought, hey, marketing automation is what's helping me the most. So this is great, but we know not everybody, has this on board. So we want to really shift our conversation over to whether you have a marketing automation solution or not, how can you use that as, your superhero sidekick and really amplify your efforts? So let's start with a poll. I'm just curious, if you could change anything, one thing, I guess, about your marketing automation platform, what would it be? Wish it were easier to get support. Wish it had more capabilities. I wish it were easier to navigate and understand, or I wish it wasn't so expensive. Wait
Wow,
a few
things
more
are pretty
seconds.
neck and neck here.
Yeah. And this is good, right? I mean, there's lots of options out there, and there's pluses and minuses, I think, with each option you have. So yeah. All right. Our poll ended and we are looking at, I wish it were easier to navigate and understand as the winner. 36% of the vote, followed by wish it wasn't so expensive, 33%. I wish it had more capabilities, 24%. And I wish it were easier to get support, 7%. Great. Thank you all for sharing. Really appreciate that.
All right, well, let's look at a slide that hopefully looks really familiar to a lot of you. And what I'm thinking here is that regardless of how you feel about your marketing automation platform today, hopefully we can all agree upon this statement that what can be automated should be automated. And that's at every stage of the buyer journey or the customer life cycle. I wanted to throw this slide in because I'm obsessed with our new naming convention, get, keep, grow. Like I said, this shouldn't look new to anybody, like it's from another planet or something like that, right? But I think it's really simple, and that's what I like. It's something that can stick in your head. It's something that you can mention when you're having conversations with anybody else in your organization, and is something that's really simple. So anybody outside of sort of the sales and marketing universe that a lot of us live in will be able to understand it. So let's get into some of the marketing automation activities that kind of fall into each one of those buckets. So really what we're trying to do is we're trying to create efficiencies, and we're trying to create opportunities to utilize marketing automation so that will free up your time to make you look like a marketing superhero doing all kinds of other stuff, right? So thinking through sort of the beginning of that funnel, when you're trying to get new leads, you want notifications set up. You want your sales team to know when somebody has submitted a form, or you want lead scoring set up, and you want your sales team to know once there's a marketing qualified lead that's being handed off so they can engage right away. So really important to think about marketing automation, not only what it can do for your communication externally, but what it can do for communications and alerts internally as well. Then we get into nurtures, right? So once somebody has sort of raised their hand, then traditionally they go into a nurture program, right? So these are always on types of programs. I do think that it's important to note here, again, as a customer marketer, that nurtures are great for your customers too. It's not just about that top of funnel. It's about getting customers into that upsell, cross-sell motion, making sure that they're adopting your product or new features, anything like that as well. And then we get into transactional communications. And I think that this is something that's really interesting, right? Because transactional is something that we're now all accustomed to, right? We all get everything like the moment that it happens on our phones. But transactions is a big part of marketing automation. I'm sure that today you got a reminder saying, hey, this webinar is starting soon. You probably got one yesterday, maybe as a reminder that it was happening today. And you're going to get a follow-up to say, hey, here's the webinar recording, whether you attended or not attended. But these can be different. It could be a form fill alert to somebody internally if somebody fills out a form, or it's a response as soon as somebody has filled out a form that, hey, they get that ebook or they get the recording to an on-demand webinar right away, because that's what we've all been sort of trained to expect, right? So make sure that you have those set up. And then you getting into more of that, keep grow motion of the funnel when you have your customers. Then you're thinking about onboarding sequences. How can I onboard this customer to make sure that they have a really great experience as soon as they become a customer? And then ongoing product communications. So thinking about maybe little nurtures that you're setting up through your automation system around maybe end of life notifications or a beta program or onboarding for a new product feature or tool that they're using. So there's a lot of opportunity here to think about automation at each stage of the life cycle.
Yeah, those are great, Jennifer. When you were talking about both the transactional communications and notifications, made me think of a a stat that has stuck in my head for years and years, but it was from Harvard Business Review that found that companies that follow up with online leads within 1 hour are 7 times more likely to qualify the lead. And I think of that as a marketing ops person, and really having our website as being obviously that front door to our company. If someone's on there and submits a request, a demo, or I want to talk to someone in sales, you got to be on that. If you don't, every hour that you delay is an hour where your competition could be coming in and swooping them up, or the prospect is saying, okay, I submitted this just like you were talking about, right? Like, where's my instant gratification? I said I want to talk to somebody. I'm not getting any response. I'm going to move on to somebody else who is going to do that for me and is going to give me that instant gratification. And, you know, yes, we all have our phone number on our website, but nobody wants to make phone calls anymore, right? We submit something and we want that outreach, and maybe we're okay with then somebody calling us, but we want to be the ones initiating that, or saying like, we're ready, and maybe it's an email, whatever, you know, hopefully you're trying all of those options because it's different for everybody. Everybody has a different preference. But I think speed to lead, we talk about that a lot here. That's a super important concept, that if you have no idea how long that's taking at your company, dig into that.
Yeah, so true. And I think especially like as a marketer, right? You know, we think about these things. So if I go and submit something on a website and I don't get a response right away, sort of just my internal thought and barometer of where that company is just goes down.
Right.
And you don't want that to be happening, especially if it's a hot lead.
Right. You want to be positioned as that sophisticated. We get it. We know what you want.
Right.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'll take this. And I think one of the best ways you can rely on marketing automation as your sidekick is by building automated programs or journeys that reach the prospect throughout their buying and customer experience, like Jennifer's mentioned. So here are some ideas you can try to build out nurture streams. I'm going to keep this short, even though I think we could probably spend an entire webinar talking just about how to create successful automated programs. But I think 3 key ways. One is really build out those profiles based on your ideal customer profile, your ICP, right? So you could have different nurtures based on job title, industry, location, company size. I mean, think about all of those firmographic and demographics. And if it makes sense, if you have different content and you would speak to those prospects differently, if they have different needs, then that's a really great way to start. The second, I think, knowing and understanding where your buyer is in the sales process, and not just keeping it top of funnel, like Jennifer mentioned, right? Don't just create even an automated program that ends when that buyer gets passed off from marketing to sales and is in the middle or bottom of that funnel. This is harder because you have to really understand what that entire sales process is and that cycle, and understand how does your sales team reach out to them? And because you don't want to duplicate things. You don't want to be sending things at the same exact time that your salesperson is, right? Because again, then you're coming across as not being on the same page, and maybe kind of creating a confusing experience for the potential buyer. So that one takes a little more effort, but I think when you can figure that out and really walk through the process from start to finish, you're gonna find those gems or those areas where like, wow, nothing's happening during this time period. This prospect isn't being talked to at all from anybody in our company. Then marketing, step in, be a superhero, help that out. And then the third, Jennifer mentioned this, but don't just stop nurturing when you win the business. Think about how you're going to continue that when they're a customer. Again, I think that's another area we could talk about all day too.
Yeah, for sure. Right. I really like what you said there, Carol, about getting in sync with your sales team and figuring out like how they're following people and what the scoring. I mean, marketing and sales obviously have to be in sync for any of this to work. But I think that that goes into what I was going to talk to around personalization, right? So when you think about personalization, automation can be personalized. And really, we already said, what can be automated should be automated, and that's sort of the guiding principle that we can use. But not everything can or should be automated either. And so I think that that's really important. And personalization, right? That's so important to building trust and building loyalty and respect with both your prospects and your customers. So when you think about this, personalized content is based on conversations, actions, life cycles. So this is all like that one-to-one communication and outreach, right? And then the automated content, that's based on your overall engagement. Maybe it's usage triggers that you have based off of how peoples are interacting, or life cycle. So maybe it's 3 months out from a renewal, there's an automated email that goes out saying, hey, we need to get something on the calendar to talk about the renewal. So there's all kinds of different ways that you can think about that. And then really, though, it's also important to think about how automation can be personalized, right? Because if you're just sending, if you're just automating emails to automate emails, you're kind of missing the point here, right? And so when we think about how can you personalize some of your automations, that's when like your spidey sense superhero tingling should be ringing your ears, and you kind of gut check and you figure out, what can I be personalizing within my automations today? So 100% what you were saying, Carol, like remove somebody from a nurture as soon as you know that they're further down in the funnel. Maybe there's a contract out for signature and you don't want them to think that you don't know that there's a contract out for signature and you affect the deal closing. So really figure out what those listenings are from the sales and marketing team, make sure that these teams are talking. Then thinking about timing and segmentation, right? So just like Carol mentioned, figuring out your ICP, there's a form that somebody's filling out, or you have a beacon or some sort of a cookie or you're using a third-party tool that's giving you data, and maybe where somebody's located or their company size or the industry that they're in. Maybe you even know what use case they're looking at your tool to solve. Anything that you can do to personalize the content that you're putting in front of them is going to really resonate, versus sort of this third bucket of don't treat all prospects the same. You can't just put everybody that fills out a form into the same exact nurture and expect great results, right? You have to somehow segment and filter that out. Going back to sort of that MarTech Marvel Universe slide, right? If you're not personalizing this content, or you're not following up quick enough, there's a whole nother group of technologies that are competing for that same business. And so you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success here.
Great tips. All right, so this last section we're going to cover today is about how to use a targeted approach for better conversion. Let's move on. I think this all starts with really understanding what your data says. And as a marketing ops person, of course, I love data. I love looking at metrics, and you can really look at a number of different metrics to better understand what's converting. One area I think that often gets overlooked, especially as marketing teams, we're so focused on top of the funnel, especially in B2B marketing, generating those leads, nurturing those leads, and passing them off to sales. But I've really found a lot of benefit from looking at, the very end of that funnel and close one and close loss, right? Look at that data, look at the customers who fall in each of those buckets, and really try to identify trends that tie back to your marketing efforts. Like, what path did they take? What channel did they come in from? This is really where attribution is key. So, it's helpful to have that, but you can find all kinds of trends like, wow, we qualified and got way down the funnel with, a chunk of leads from this event or this webinar, or this campaign, and then none of them converted. That's a really great learning that you need to take back to your marketing team and say, okay, everybody, look at what we found. Or, hopefully it's the reverse, right? That you said, wow, we crushed it at this thing. Let's do more of that, obviously, right? And I think though, that takes some effort. So in the, if that seems like a big chunk to bite off, one of the best things I think you can do is just, as a marketing team, do quarterly reviews of all your programs and channels to just understand what content is working and what's not. What's the most popular blog on your website? What's gotten the most clicks, in your nurture campaigns? What webinar had the best attendance? Break it down by channel or program or even campaign, and figure out what's our top performing stuff, what's our lowest performing stuff. And then, that might mean that you have to take out, hey, this ebook, we all thought it was great, right? We had somebody write it, we designed it, took a lot of effort, but no one's clicking on it. Or, so what does that mean? Where do we have to take this out of? Is it in a bunch of nurture programs that maybe we can try A/B testing or replace it with a different ebook or piece of content that is getting more clicks and conversions? So that's the kind of, I think, effort and dedication you have to take. It's not just churn out more and more and more, and this is always really hard because we're asked as marketers to do more, right? But you really have to take that step back and say, okay, well, let's pause for a second and figure out, we did all of this. What happened? What were the results? And I think this is really easy because everyone has this kind of set it and forget it mentality with marketing automation. But if you want to be successful, you have to regularly check this. And this also means with your automated programs, take a look at how they're performing and just check them regularly. Are the lists, is everything syncing on the back end side? Are people flowing through? Are they somehow coming out of the sequence? Really look at that data to know what's happening and is there a problem? Because especially with automated programs, you turn it on, you're like, everything's fine, it's great. And sometimes there's some problem on the back end that you might not be aware of if you're not taking a closer look at, who's coming through and actually starting and ending that sequence. All right. And then one more on this, just kind of keeping that laser focus by identifying accounts, even when they're in the process, right? They're evaluating you, or they become known to you. How do you identify accounts with the best likelihood to convert? This is where it's really great if you do have other tools, intent tools, or analytics to look at who is coming to our website, who's clicking on this, and really, if they have that insight, that intent piece, try to, parse that out and see what trends are we finding with this. And if you can integrate that with your marketing automation tool, you're going to get a very personalized message that's going to go to them at the right time. And that's what it's all about, right? I think the second piece you can do is just use that segmentation to break your prospects into smaller groups, like I talked about earlier. If you have different profiles or segments based on your ICP, compare them to each other and better understand, is there one that's more likely to convert than another? Are you going after 3 key industries, but, you're crushing it with one and 2 other are falling flat? Well, why is that? And I think a lot of this too, if you don't have that other tool, you don't have that data, this is where it's really important to be hand in hand with your sales team and understand, listen to some of their conversations, join their meetings, or get that feedback from them. Have a weekly meeting where you're talking through this and trying to understand, are we, is there more hesitation in one group versus the other? Or are they, bringing up different problems? that we're not, talking about in our marketing efforts, or, hey, yeah, you've gotten great success. Like, what kind of trends have you seen? And what kind of accounts do you think are most likely to convert, and why? And really just try to understand that from the sales perspective.
So I wanted to kind of bring this all together and highlight a really great customer story that I think kind of emulates this whole laser focused approach and looks at everything that we've talked through today. So customer is Georgia United Credit Union. They have a really great cross-sell campaign. It includes elements of behavior, segmentation, personalization, and it's all run through an automated program in Acton. To set the scene, just because these stats are literally out of this world, this is their welcome email, or the email that is the first email in their onboarding series. They have a 77% open rate and a 44% click-through rate. So a super engaged audience, but they weren't really doing a lot to continue to tap into that and engage the audience. So they wanted to figure out what could they do in order to get this audience to start converting over to more of their different products and services, right? And so they went through and they thought about, how could we segment out these different customers? Are they somebody that's a new member to the credit union? What products do they already have? What services are they using today? And then what sort of account type do they have? There's a lot of different nuances here, but this goes back to what Carol was saying. I love that. Like, make smaller groups once you can start segmenting, and then you can really laser focus in your communication. And that's exactly what they did. So they sort of had this waterfall approach of a personalized, focused, cross-selling stream. And they would enroll somebody into this automated program 1 month after they were onboarded with the credit union. And the first question here that they would ask is, did they recently qualify or get denied from a loan? Based off of that answer, you would then go into this sort of waterfall, and it goes monthly until you would exit the program. And the different offers there are, do you have a checking account? Can we get you an auto loan, home loan, personal loan, all those kinds of things that different financial institutions offer, and what they called they're always delivering the next best offer. Well, this program in the first 11 months generated 800 upsells for them. So huge success. And this is a program that wasn't running before, right? So those were 800 upsells that they wouldn't have had otherwise. This is what they got with marketing automation, kind of putting all of the tools in their tool belt, to use to really create a great customer experience, but also end up helping the business as well. So that's what I want to leave you with. Carol?
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. That was such a great example. I think, tying so many of the topics we've talked about today into a real world example. So before we open up for questions, we wanted to leave you with 3 key takeaways from this webinar to make sure you walk away as a marketing superhero. So Jennifer, I'll let you start with the first.
All right. So like we started off, it's super important to review your tech stack and confirm that every single tool that you use is being used. And if not, lose it.
Yeah, give it the X. All right, good. Yes, second one, especially with automations, never just set it and forget it. Review them frequently. Review them just to know that they're running the way you were intending them to run, that your customers and prospects are flowing through the way they're supposed to, but then also get those nuggets, get those good things that program is doing, so you can share that with the marketing team and apply that to other channels and other efforts you have.
Yeah. And finally, Keep it simple. Marketing automation is not rocket science. Hopefully we painted that picture for you today. There's lots of different areas that you can plug marketing automation into your overall flow, your journey, and you have to start somewhere. So hopefully it wasn't too daunting, and this is a universe that you're going to feel really comfortable exploring.
Awesome.
All right, well, let's go ahead and try to squeeze one question in here before we close it up for the day. And if you want to stop your share, that's fine.
Sure.
Question number one, the automation tools that you have been discussing today, where do I find them? Do you recommend a primary application or some get it all here resource that people can check out?
I wish there was an easy, here's one place. But then we'd all be fighting to be on it. And then you'd have 10,300 vendors wanting to be on it. So I think, no, but I think, utilize, I would even recommend, if you have a certain area where like, okay, ABM, I don't know if I need it or not, but let me explore it. Utilize, review sites, G2, Capterra, learn who the main players are in that space and what their differentiators are. So kind of take it piece by piece is what I would suggest.
Love it. Well, time flies when you're having fun. Thank you, Carol and Jennifer, for an amazing presentation today. And thanks again, Acton, for sponsoring today's presentation. Attendees, as a quick FYI, when you exit Zoom, there will be a window that pops up with a very short 30-second survey. We'd love to hear what your thoughts on today's session are, so please let us know. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you again real soon at the next Marketing Profs event. Great job, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, go be a superhero.
Woo, save the day.
Take care.